Karl Barth was what you might call salty. He was born May 10th, 1886 in Basel, Switzerland, to a Reformed family, Swiss Reformed family. His father, Fritz Barth, was a minister and then went on to become a professor of New Testament and early Christian history. His mother, Anna Katharina, I don't know much about. I think there was 4 other children in his family, so it was a pretty standard Reformed family at the time. He grew up in Bern, and this is where his saltiness starts to emerge. His nickname, Karli. Karli didn't like school. Well, I can relate to that. I was not a fan of it myself. But he also led a local street gang and was involved in quite a number of scuffles over turf war and such. That part I really can't connect with. For the person who grows up to become the greatest theologian of the 20th century, maybe third greatest of all time, top 3 all time, right? This is an inauspicious beginning, but perhaps no less so than Augustine's beginning. In 1904, Karl entered the University of Bern for what we would probably call his undergraduate studies, majoring in theology. He went on to do graduate work, some of the greatest theological, kind of cathedrals, these academic cathedrals of the time in Berlin, Tübingen, and Marburg, studying under Adolf von Harnack, Wilhelm Hermann, and others who were the masters of liberal theology. And again, when I say liberal, I don't mean Nancy Pelosi and stuff like that, and Bernie Sanders. I mean the liberal theology of the time assumed that the great quest of religion was to unite human beings with the divine, right? And that was the quest. And Barth went on from his graduate level liberal theological education to pastor in Sophenville, Switzerland in 1909. And this was the standard academic track. You finished your advanced studies, you took a pastorate that prepared you then to come back to the academic institution for scholarly life. Now, in the old book edited by David Ford, Modern Theology, Robert Jensen writes this about Barth. The young pastor had regularly to preach from appointed texts. All right, so this is where I want you to start thinking about, can we be saved outside the church? What was the role of the church in bringing Barth into the position that it did? The young pastor had regularly to preach from appointed texts. He was following a lectionary. Trying to fulfill this obligation, he found himself driven to read the Bible differently from the way of his education that it had equipped him to do. He perceived that the Bible is not about our religion or morality or history, but about something called the kingdom of God. What that might be, he could not make out, but he saw that it could not be what the liberal interpretation presumed it was, the success of our historical, moral, and religious endeavor. Now that still sounds a lot like the Church of the Nazarene to me. Didn't I say in another slide that nothing is more liberal than the evangelical church? If the Bible was about religion or morality or history, it seemed if anything, if the Bible was about religion and morality and history, it seemed if anything to be about God's religion and morality and history. Indeed, Barth discovered in the Bible an entire strange new world. He later wrote an essay with that title, a reality one could understand only by inhabiting it, and such, etc., and so forth. So what was the role of the church in bringing Barth to this position? If Barth had not entered back into the life of the church as a pastor, following the lectionary, submitting himself to the discipline of the church in that sense, would he be saved? Would he have been saved from his liberal education? Would he have made the contributions that he did? So that's an important question. Some more saltiness. He married a young gal from his first confirmation class named Nellie Hoffman. But later on, in 1924, when he was now teaching at the university, he hired, I believe, Charlotte von Kirschbaum as an assistant, research assistant, confidant. She became his mistress and lived with Karl and Nellie in their home for 35 years, creating, as you can imagine, quite a bit of household distress. So some more of his saltiness. Barth, of course, had an illustrious theological career, was strongly opposed to Nazism before opposition to Nazism was a thing, and later on then died December 10th, 1968, still in Basel, Switzerland, where he was born, though he had obviously traveled quite extensively.